Hey, David here. I hope you're doing good. In this video, I want to talk about why I sold all of my vinyl records and why I stopped listening to secular music. But before I do so, I want to talk to you about a little bit about myself and my relationship to music. So I grew up in a Christian home, a musical Christian home. My dad is a pastor, my mom is a pastor, but before she became a pastor, she was a full-time artist and musician. She released albums and toured in the country that I'm from, the DR Congo. And she became pretty known in the Congolese community because of her albums. So I grew up with that around, with musicians around, with people writing songs and all of that, and that's kind of how I learned to do the same thing. But my parents were pretty adamant about me not listening to secular music. I was skeptical, so I didn't really buy that. So I just started listening to any type of music, right? Frank Ocean, Coldplay, Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, J. Cole, Jay-Z, Brockhampton, you name it. And I started finding identity and identifying with the music that I was listening to. So much so that I became a vinyl record collector. I just buy a lot of those, and I love the cracked sounding of a turning, turntable. I just love that. I found identity in being a collector, and I collected like 300 plus records over the years. But now I sold it all. I sold all of it. And you may ask, David, why did you do that? So last year in December, I went through a very hard time, a relational change, and that was really painful, still painful in some ways. And at the height of it, I would just pray, Lord, I want you to work in my life. I want you to help me in this moment. I want you to walk with me. That was the posture of my heart. And I gently heard Jesus tell me that, David, it is good and I'm so glad that you're inviting me in, but it is better for you to make space for me to stay. Let me say that again. It is good for you to invite me in, but it is better for you to make space for me to stay. And that just wrecked me. I was just like, man, I've been wanting Jesus and inviting him in, but have I actually made space for him in my life? And if you want a guest in your house, you have to make space for them, right? You have to make the bed and have a room available for them to stay. And the same goes for Jesus, that in order for us to experience him in his fullness, we need to make space for him in our lives. And I knew immediately when he said that, that what had to go was all of my vinyls and listening to secular music. Why? Because it took the space that I wanted to give to Jesus in order for me to experience him more and more and more. So what does it mean to make space for God? What it means is that you are looking into your life and asking, what are some of those things that are taking the time and the space in my life for me to experience God's love, God's word in its fullness? What are those things? Because we're not changed by our willingness to change and just stop sinning or whatever. We're changed by experiencing the love of Jesus, his presence, his word, his truth. That's how we change. But in order for that to happen, we need to make space to experience God. So here's two things that happens when you make space for God. One, you become filled with the Spirit, filled with his word, and you begin to experience change the more you make room to experience Jesus. You act in ways that you never thought that you will. You have self-control all of the sudden. It's because you have made space to experience Jesus, and that's going to change you. The second thing is that your purpose becomes clearer. That's the reason why Jesus was so clear about what he was meant to do when he was here on earth, because he had space to hear the Father's voice, know the Father's will, and run ahead in the race that God had for him. And the same things, can happen for us if we make space for God, if we make space to experience him. So when I gave all the stuff away, I began to write songs that were so aligned with who God called me to be. Because my purpose is to write songs that reflect the work of God in my life. And I began to just do that. And the song that I'm releasing February 8th, The One, came out of that and sums up all the things that I've talked about. And it became clear to me what the Lord wanted me to write about. But I was confused about it in the beginning because I had so many other voices, musical genres, artists speaking, and I was listening to them and I was so confused. But when I took that away and invited Jesus in, it became very clear what I was supposed to do. So this song, The One, can I talk about it for a little bit? Ain't no fun in laying things down, but you said that's where life is found. It's coming out February 8th, and if you would like, you could pre-save it on Spotify or pre-order it on iTunes, and I would really appreciate that. But it's a song that kind of like sums up all that I've talked about here, and I'm so excited for it to be finally out there, and maybe it's going to help you just like it helped me. But yeah, the question of the day is, are we making space for God? Are you making space to experience more of God in your life? Just take a step today and ask that question. Do not be discouraged by anything. Let God's grace and his love fill you with courage to let go of the things that are hindering you from experiencing the fullness of God. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.